Okay, I'm going to go ahead and call this court into session at this time. Now, while this court is in session, I don't want any outbursts of any type. No swearing, no punching, kicking, pissing, jerking off in my courtroom. Does everyone understand that? You will be held in contempt of court. This is the only warning. Does everyone understand me?
That's clear, Your Honor.
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes, Your Honor.
All
Okay,
right,
I got
so
it fixed.
this is Eugene Zuckerberg, Celine Lacroix, I guess that's how you say her name, and Ryan Kindle versus Emma DuPont, Jackie Snow, and Daryl McCormick. I'll go over the statement of claims at this time. The representative for the plaintiffs is Mr. Murphy Braun. The representative for the defendants is Miss West from the District Attorney's Office. Statement of claim as listed. On 3/26/2019, Eugene Zuckerberg, Celine Lacroix, and Ryan Kindle were detained by Trooper DuPont, Chief of Police Jackie Snow, and Detective Daryl McCormick on suspicion of being involved in planning a bank robbery in Toledo. While detained, the three were unlawfully DNA tested without their consent, a serious violation of their rights and protections under the Fourth Amendment of the Constitution, as well as California state law, which states DNA can only be obtained with the consent of the detainee unless they are convicted of or at very least under arrest for a felony. The relief is as stated, $25,000 in damages to all three for violation of their Fourth Amendment right. Are both sides prepared to give their opening?
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes, Your Honor.
Your Honor.
All right, Mr. Braun, you may proceed at this time, sir.
Your Honor, ladies and gentlemen of the court, on March 26th, my clients were detained in Toledo and questioned by law enforcement. They were subsequently released. During their detainment, law enforcement officers requested DNA samples from each of my clients, though they were not under arrest for any malicious felonies. According to Maryland v. King, when law enforcement has reason to believe they can arrest someone for a particular type of felony, they may then waive that suspect's Fourth Amendment rights and gather genetic evidence without their consent. They must be under arrest for a felony. As I said, my clients were detained and released, and this evidence which was collected was subsequently used to charge and convict my clients at a later time. This lawsuit is just under 42 U.S. Code Section 1983, which assesses that a citizen has the right to sue any state agent for a civil rights violation, tongue-tied, civil rights violation, and that is what we are here today to prove, is that my client's civil rights were violated and that any convictions related to that DNA evidence are poisoned and false evidence. Thank you, Your Honor. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, Mr. Braun. Miss West, you may
Yes, Your
proceed,
Honor.
ma'am.
Your Honor, members of the gallery, today I will prove that the police involved in this case all had used their experience and knowledge to determine there was indeed probable cause to justify taking DNA samples from Eugene Zuckerberg, Ryan Kendall, and Celine Lacroix. Not only will I prove that no constitutional amendments were violated and no California law broken, but I'll have the backing of the United States Constitution and the United States Supreme Court behind me. By the time I'm finished presenting this case, I firmly believe that you'll make the right decision and rule in favor of the defendants. That is all, Your Honor.
Thank you, Miss West. Mr. Braun, are you prepared to call your first witness?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, you may proceed, Mr. Braun.
I would like to call Eugene Zuckerberg to the stand,
Wait,
please.
we're going on the
All
stand?
right, Mr. Zuckerberg, will you
What?
please approach? You,
Oh,
Mr.
me,
Zuckerberg.
all right. Oh,
Yes.
cool, wonderful, wonderful. I love being up here.
All right, Deputy Colombo, could you swear in Mr. Zuckerberg for me, please?
Mm-hmm. Mr.
Hello.
Zuckerberg, can you raise your right hand for me?
Oh, I can raise my left.
Okay. Mr. Zuckerberg, do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? So help you, Mitch.
I swear, so help me sin.
Witness has been sworn
Yes.
in, Your Honor.
Thank you, Deputy. All right, Mr. Zuckerberg, I'll remind you at this time, sir, you're now under oath.
Ah,
Mr. Braun, you may proceed with your line of questioning for this witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Zuckerberg, how are you doing today?
I'm very well. I'm fantastic. Thank you. How are you doing, sir?
Excellent, excellent. Mr. Zuckerberg, were you detained by Emma DuPont, Jackie Snow, and Daryl McCormick on 326 in Polito?
I was indeed, yes.
Okay. Did any of those officers explain to you why you were being detained?
Not really, no. They were just saying pending investigation.
Okay. Were you ever listed any charges?
No,
Were you placed under arrest at any point in time?
we were not, no.
Did any of the officers ask to collect a DNA swab for evidence in their investigation?
They did, but they didn't so much as ask, as they kind of forced themselves to take it.
Did you consent to this collection of evidence?
I said, no, I do not consent on a multitude of times, probably about 20, 30 times. I said, no, you will not take it. I want my lawyer.
Did the officers collect the DNA anyway without your consent?
Yes, they did. They forced a swab in my mouth.
And again, Mr. Zuckerberg, were you charged with anything after they collected the DNA?
No, they took our DNA, flew off in a helicopter, and then let us go minutes later.
So you were released.
Yes, we were released completely and let go.
Mr. Braun, you want to rebut that objection?
I'm just confirming and clarifying what my client has already stated.
All right. Overruled. You can answer the question again for me, Eugene?
Oh, sorry, what was the question again?
I was
asked you
asking
if
you
you
to
were
clarify you were
released.
released by police.
Oh, yes, we were released, yes.
And
Right,
again,
thank
to
you,
clarify,
Eugene.
everyone was released, including Miss Lacroix.
Yes, every single one of us was released, yes.
All right, now, Mr. Zuckerberg, on 328, there was a misdemeanor trespass warrant. Were you served that warrant on 328?
I was indeed, yes.
And were you offered time served to cooperate in the service of this warrant?
Yes, indeed I was.
You recall who offered you the time served?
I believe
Turn
it
yourself
was
in.
Officer Snow, I believe. It was a long time ago, I believe it was him.
All right, thank you, Mr. Zuckerberg. I have nothing further.
I am Miss West, your witness.
I get down now.
No, Eugene. You're not done yet.
all right.
Mr. Zuckerberg, what were you doing inside the Plato Bank on March 26th?
Removing money from my bank account like a normal person would in a bank.
What time were you at this bank?
I don't remember.
Was it daytime or nighttime?
Don't remember. It was so long ago.
Okay, I would like to refer
believe
to
it was
the
evening.
incident report 771 that the officers reported that they found the 3 individuals in there at nighttime.
It is noted in the incident report.
All right.
Was the bank open when you were inside? Were
This
there
is always
tellers?
open.
Where were you when officers found you inside the bank?
I believe we were outside.
Mr. Zuckerberg, you are under oath. I'm going to ask you again. Where were you inside the bank when the officers found you?
Again, I believe I was outside. Perhaps we were inside the lobby. I don't know. We weren't in any restricted areas or anything.
Okay. I would also like to report to the refer to the same incident that the officers found them behind the wooden partition inside the restricted area. That would have been Mr. Zuckerberg and Mr. Ryan Kendall.
It is in the report, yes.
Okay. Do you remember if power was on when you were inside? Was it dark? Were the lights on? Anything like that?
Normal to me.
Could you repeat that answer for me, Eugene?
Oh, it seemed normal to me. Nothing seemed out of ordinary.
Have you ever had any run-ins with the 3 defendants, Trooper DuPont, Chief of Police Snow, or Detective McCormack before? For that day?
Sure, of course. I think everyone's had run-ins with. Oh, that day I don't know. Don't recall.
Have you ever been convicted of a prior felony?
Oh, sure.
No further questions.
I'm trying to
Mr.
write
Braun?
like Ryan would write. You know what I'm
Oh.
saying?
Yes, I have a couple more questions.
He has a couple more questions for you, Eugene.
All right, good.
All right, Mr. Zuckerberg, in terms of
Fucking hate you, chat.
in terms of the questions asked by Ms. West, referring back to your detainment and release, you were detained. They collected DNA for an investigation and concluded their investigation, at which point in time you were again released.
Yes, released, yes.
Okay. I would like to refer again to the incident report stating that the DNA evidence was collected and that none of the DNA matched any of DNA found at another scene at, I believe this was the power plant. I just want to confirm and have that on record. The report concludes that they were released because no DNA matched with the other crime scene.
All right, it is noted and in the record, Mr. Braun.
All right, and that's all I have for Mr. Zuckerberg. Thank you.
All right. Miss West, do you have any more questions for Mr. Zuckerberg?
Yes, I do.
All right. Pertaining to what Mr. Braun just asked.
Yes. All right. Were you later served an arrest warrant 2 days later? For the trespassing
believe
of the
we were-
Play-Doh bank? Okay. All right. Can I repeat this question? Again, why were you there at the bank late at night? Okay. And in the report, it states that you were there trying to get a loan to buy a ring for your granddaughter.
Uh-huh.
Okay. No further questions.
All right, Mr. Zuckerberg, you may step down at this time, sir.
Who?
Thank you for your
I
testimony.
won't.
You,
There, what?
you can step
Me?
down, Mr. Zuckerberg. Yes.
Oh, all right. Ta-ta.
All right, Mr. Braun, do you have another witness to call?
Yes, Your Honor, I would like to call Ryan Kindle to the stand.
All right, Mr. Kendall, will you please approach and take your spot on the witness stand? Deputy Colombo, could you swear in Mr. Kendall when he's in place? There's a piece of glass there, Mr. Kendall. Thank you.
Very clean glass. Very, very clean.
It is.
Mr. Kindle, please raise your left hand.
Yes.
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? So help you, Mitch.
Yes.
Witness has been sworn
I
in, Your
believe
Honor.
in River God. Is that okay?
That's fine.
Okay.
Thank you,
Yes.
Deputy Colombo. And Mr. Kendall, I'll remind you, this time you're not under oath, sir. Mr. Braun, you may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Kindle, how are you doing today?
Not bad, not bad. I just had my coffee this morning, and a little snack. It was quite nice.
All right, very good, very good. Now, Mr. Kindle, I'm going to ask you a lot of the same questions. It might be a little repetitive, but I'm going to keep them short and sweet. Were you detained by Chief Snow, Emmett DuPont, and Detective McCormick on 326? along
Yes.
with Eugene Zuckerberg?
Yes, I was.
So you were detained, yes. Did they explain to you why you were being detained?
Not really. Like, I kind of, felt it had something to do with, a little bit of a jealousy problem that was occurring.
Okay. Could you elaborate on that a little bit, Mr. Kindle?
Yes. Miss Emma DuPont has been, trying to get me to make babies with her for, some time. And, things started to, get a little awkward between us. Her, Ripley, myself, it was kind of like this, weird,
Objection, narrative.
I'm sorry, can you object to me? Yes, objection, with the fifth.
All right. Can you just answer the questions in a very, very brief
yes,
statement,
absolutely.
Mr. Kendall?
I,
you.
I believe it had to do with I think with Celine and I potentially getting married. I think there was a bit of jealousy going on. That is at least my interpretation. There were some instances like they tried to. There were some instances where they were going to let us go, and then they wanted to talk to us more in
Objection,
French and
relevance?
whatnot.
All right. He's Mr. Braun, your client's getting a little off track here with the
well,
question that you asked.
I mean, I don't believe she can object to what he's saying more so.
No,
than the
but I'm
questions,
just
but
saying
it's up to you.
that Mr. Kendall is kind of, you're going off track here, Mr. Kendall.
Yes, I'm sorry, I'm not a lawyer. I can plead fifth though.
All right, Mr. Kindle, let's move on from there.
Yes,
I think
absolutely.
you made your point about Miss DuPont. So you were never given any charges.
No.
Were you Mirandized?
Yeah. Quite frankly, I don't. Maybe at some point, maybe way down the line. It was actually a very confusing set of events.
Okay, no problem. Did anyone ever tell you that you were under arrest? Any of the three defendants?
Not that I recall.
Did the officers request to take a DNA sample for evidence on scene?
They did.
And did you consent to this?
I did not. In fact, I was asking, well, how can you do that? We were just outside. How can you, go just start taking my DNA? We didn't do anything.
And did the officers collect the DNA evidence without your consent?
Yes. I had the impression that in fact, I think there was some kind of line about, we can do, anything we want with the police. I'm only paraphrasing.
Okay. And
Objection,
again, were
hearsay.
you...
You
Again,
can't
Your
object
Honor-
to his answers. You can object
Thank
to
you.
the questions that Mr. Braun is asking. Okay, proceed,
And,
Mr. Braun.
And after they collected the evidence, were you charged at that point in time?
Can you repeat the question?
I said after they collected the evidence, the DNA from you, were you charged at that point in time?
I was not.
At that point in time, were you placed under arrest?
No.
And were you released?
Yes.
All right, Mr. Kindle, on 3/28, were you offered time served by the police on a misdemeanor trespass warrant?
What was the date?
3/28, 2 days after.
Where was this trespass?
You were issued a warrant for trespassing, which was served when you were
I don't
arrested
recall.
for.
I don't
okay.
remember ever being trespassed for anything, quite frankly.
Okay. Okay. Fair enough. All right. Thank you, Mr. Kindle. I've got nothing further for now.
Yes.
Miss West?
How you doing, Miss West? I hope you're doing well.
Good. How about yourself?
I'm doing pretty good. Are we still down for like coffee? Like, what's going on with that? It's been like a couple days now.
Mr. Kindle.
Yes.
Shh. Miss West, you may proceed.
Where were you in the bank when officers found you?
Outside.
Outside. Okay. I'm going to ask you again since you are under oath. Where were you when the officers found you at the Polito Bank on March 26th?
Outside bank.
Okay. I would like to refer to the incident report again that states that he was also found in the main corridor past the small fence.
Yes, it is in the incident report.
I'm sorry. Like, I'm confused here. Police may I? Okay, yes.
All right. Were you later served
I
a
wasn't out
trespassing
inside.
warrant?
I don't fucking
on
remember.
March
It's like 6
28th
weeks
for the
ago.
events that happened on the 26th?
Can you repeat the question, please?
Were you served a trespassing arrest warrant on March 28th for your actions on March 26th?
I don't recall.
Don't recall. Okay. All right. Give me 1 second. Okay. I would like to remind the court that you were indeed arrested and you served your warrant. So that is all.
Mr. Braun?
Yes, Your Honor. Actually, I have nothing further.
All right, Mr. Kindle, you may step down, sir.
Yeah, thank you.
Mr. Braun, do you have any more witnesses to call?
Your Honor, the plaintiff would like to rest at this time. I have no further need for witness testimony.
All right, thank you, Mr. Braun. Miss West, are you prepared to call your first witness?
Yes, I am. I would like to call to the stand Chief of Police Jackie Snow.
All right, Chief Snow, please approach. And bailiff, would you please swear in the Chief of Police?
Excuse me, sir.
I don't
Mr.
fucking.
Payne, are you
No,
okay?
please,
I legitimately
I'm doing all right, Your
barely
Honor.
remember.
I'm doing all right. I'm not high.
Okay. Thank you. Hey, keep
Mrs.
an eye
Snow,
on
please.
Mr. Payne.
We didn't do any
raise your
prep
left
for
hand
this.
me.
He might be smoking his stuff. Say it.
Do you swear to tell the truth, and the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you, Mitch?
Yes, sir, I do.
Your Honor, the witness has been sworn in.
Thank you, bailiff. Chief, I will remind you at this time you're now under oath, sir. Miss West,
Yes, sir.
you may proceed.
Okay. Can you describe the events that unfolded on March 26th, 2019?
Yes, ma'am. We had several restricted area calls at the power grids that relate to Polito and Polito Bank. Myself and Detective McCormick responded using L1, and at the power station just across from the 24/7 store on Great Ocean Highway, we found a blood sample at one of the junction boxes. The station had been shut down by whatever it is that they did at that particular power station. Shortly after, we received a intruder alarm at the Polito Bank, which we responded and found all three suspects, one of which is not here today, inside.
Okay. Can you identify the individuals that were inside the bank here in the courtroom today?
Yes, ma'am, I can.
Can you do that for me?
Yeah, it's going to be Mr. Ryan Kindle and Eugene Zuckerberg.
Okay.
Celine is not here.
Okay. And then what happened when you responded to the restricted call at the Polito Bank?
All three suspects were found inside, and at that point were being detained for suspicion of trespassing. Blood samples were taken, at which point myself and Detective McCormick went back to Vinewood PD to process the blood we just taken.
When you arrived, was the power to the bank shut down?
Yes, ma'am, I believe it was.
At the time, did you think that the situation in Polito and that the power grid situations were all connected?
Yes, ma'am, that was the suspicion.
Okay. At what point was their DNA collected?
After all three suspects were detained.
Okay. Whose decision was it to take their DNA?
Say again, sorry, ma'am?
Whose decision was it to take their DNA samples?
That would be my decision.
Okay. Is the practice of obtaining DNA samples written
Wait,
within
how
your
is that
SOPs?
possible?
Yes, ma'am, it is.
Did you, as Chief of Police, find that you had probable cause in taking their DNA samples?
Yes, ma'am, I did.
Can you detail as to what your reasoning was?
Yep, so we had the blood found at the power plant that was close to Polito that we know is connected to the bank's power. Upon finding those suspects trespassing in the bank, we believe them to be either potentially casing the place out or attempting to rob it, at which point we needed to verify whether it was the same people that had shut down that power plant.
Have you met any of the plaintiffs before that day?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, in what capacity?
Objection, Your Honor. Relevance.
Sustained.
Okay. Do you know why they were charged with trespassing versus felony trespassing?
No, ma'am, I do not. That was a decision made by the DA at the time.
All right, no further questions.
Mr. Braun?
Oh, shit.
Your Honor, I need just one moment, please.
Are you calling for a recess?
Not a recess. I just need to review these warrants.
Make
Check
it
the
brief,
note on the
Mr.
floor
Braun.
as well.
Okay, Your Honor, at this time I would like to just point out that the warrants that were issued are not in fact felony trespass warrants, but misdemeanor trespass warrants. Should be 5
Yes, I've
months and
reviewed all three
$250.
warrants. Yes, yes.
The opposing counsel referred to them as felony trespass warrants.
No, I asked why
felony-
they were charged with trespassing versus felony trespassing. I didn't indicate that they were charged with felony
That
trespassing.
is the question that she did ask, Mr. Braun.
All right, very good, Your Honor. How are you doing today, Chief Snow?
Not too great, unfortunately, Mr. Braun. I was victim to a shooting at the Polito Bank earlier today. The shotgun.
I'm very sorry to hear that. As regards to Miss West's line of questioning, at the time you seemed, it sounded like you were pretty suspicious of my clients being involved in some sort of bank robbery. Is that correct?
Throw the briefcase.
Yes, sir, that is correct.
Okay, and you said that you had detained them. If you were so certain that you had probable cause to collect their DNA evidence, why were they not placed under arrest?
That's not something I could unfortunately answer. I wasn't on scene when that happened. But I would imagine it would have been potentially another call that had been a high priority, perhaps.
Shit.
Okay.
Honestly,
Now,
couldn't
do
tell
you-
I go over there and
Do you
drop the
normally
note?
collect DNA evidence from detainees who you have a suspicion of being involved in a crime?
No, we collect them from people under suspicion of committing a felony, sir.
While they are under arrest, correct?
Correct, yes.
Now, in this case, my clients were clearly not under arrest. You, in fact, said so yourself. They were detained. Why was DNA justified in being collected in this exceptional instance, Chief Snow?
They were detained for questioning after they'd been found trespassing, Mr. Braun. So it was in a commission of...
But they were not charged with a felony.
I believe they were. Have the warrants not been served? Is my paperwork incorrect?
The warrants were served on 328 for
There we are, Mr.
misdemeanor
Braun.
trespassing, as has been stated on the record. So again, what
Yes,
what
sir.
felony were they being
Your
arrested
Honor?
for that justified the DNA evidence being taken?
Your Honor, at this time, I would like to bring up that felony trespassing was not written in the penal code at the time of this
Is this an
incident.
objection, Your Honor?
Yes, Miss Wester. What are you objecting to?
Oh, shit.
The fact that felony trespassing was not introduced into the penal code until a later date.
That's not a valid objection, ma'am. If you want to bring something
John.
up to the court, you may at the time that you can. But right now, Mr. Braun is questioning Chief of Police Snow.
Withdrawn.
All right. Okay.
Okay, so Chief Snow, when you obtained this DNA evidence and processed it, what were your findings?
We found that the blood found on scene at one of the power plants did not come back to any of the suspects that we had on scene at the bank.
Okay, and again, my clients were released upon conclusion of your investigation for the situation in Polito.
I believe they were, sir. I believe they were, though I was not on scene at the time.
All right, well then, thank you, Chief Snow. I have nothing further.
All right, Miss West.
Yes, I would like to include at this time that felony trespassing was not introduced into the penal code until a later date. So
I
the
am well
clients would
aware of
not
that.
have,
Unless,
okay.
can this be verified independently?
Yes. I wrote it in the books on April 2nd, sir.
I have no further questions for Chief of Police Snow.
You may step down, Chief. Do you have any more witnesses to call, Miss West?
Yes, I do. Detective McCormick.
Detective McCormick, will you please approach?
Mr.
Bailiff,
McCormick, please,
swear him in.
please raise your left hand. You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and none but the truth. So help you, Mitch.
I do.
Witness has been sworn in, Your Honor.
Thank you, Bailiff. Detective McCormick, I'll remind you at this time you're now under oath, sir. Miss West, you may proceed with your line of questioning for this witness.
Okay. What were you doing before the restricted area alarm was triggered at the Polito Bank?
I believe I was in right along with Chief Snow over there. We were discussing some police work.
Okay. Were you one of the officers that responded to the alarms at the different power grids?
I was there, but I did not get out on the field. I was writing a report of that.
Okay. Were you one of the officers that responded to the call at the Polito Bank?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. What happened when you arrived on scene at the bank?
When we arrived on scene, we had Deputy Leonard. He was there. He was holding the three individuals inside at gunpoint.
Okay. Can you identify the three individuals that were at the bank in the courtroom today?
Copy this.
Yes, the two sitting over there, Mr. Eugene Zuckerberg, Mr. Ryan Kindle, and Miss LaCroix, who is not present at this point.
Okay. California law states that DNA can only be obtained with the consent of detainees unless they are convicted of, or at the very least, under arrest for felony. This was taken from Mr. Braun's own case filing. What he neglected to include is that taken from the California Department of Justice, any person who is newly convicted of a felony offense or who is newly convicted of a misdemeanor but has a prior felony. Now, at the time of this incident, were Eugene Zuckerberg and Ryan Kendall convicted felons?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Miss West, can you point me to where you found that at?
Yes, let me send you an email with that real quick. That would have been on
By the way,
State of California Department of Justice.
This is in character.
The Office of the Attorney General, Section 1, Part A.
Do we have females left in this chat?
All right, thank you, Miss West.
Okay.
All the females type 1 in chat.
Detective
it's only
McCormick,
for the
were they
jokes.
later convicted of a misdemeanor for the trespassing charge?
Yes, ma'am. I believe that they were served the warrants a couple of days later. And I believe when we caught Mr. Kindle, if I remember this correctly, I was sitting up in Air 1 manning the camera. And Mr. Kindle was found inside Polito Bank drilling the safety deposit box.
Wait, that was a while ago.
So when when his trespassing warrant was served, he was currently in progress of robbing the same bank he trespassed on 2 days prior. Was it your decision to collect their DNA?
A sealed container that I marked with each of their names on and the date of collection.
There we go.
After
Sorry about
that,
that,
I took the evidence to our offices at Vinewood PD, where we have the equipment in order to process.
Okay. Did you, as a CID detective, have probable cause to take their DNA?
Based on what was said before and also what I've written in my report, yes, I believe I had probable cause to take their DNA.
All right. Thank you. No further questions.
Mr. Braun, your witness.
Good afternoon, Detective McCormick. How are you today?
I'm doing good, sir.
I just have a few questions for you. So you said you had probable cause to collect the DNA evidence at the Polito Bank. Why did you feel you had probable cause?
Well, the order of events that happened, plus the long rap sheets that both of your clients have.
Okay. So if you had so much probable cause, why were my clients not arrested at the Polito Bank?
Because we detained them. Then we took them down Mission Road P. After that, I wrote all. I needed a little bit of time to write everything down. Your clients were released. I then gave all of my evidence to the DA, and the warrants were issued.
Okay. So again, why were they released? Why were they not charged?
Because it was going to be the DA's choice if he was going to charge them or not.
I see. And why did the DA decide to pursue charges on 328?
You would have to ask him that, sir.
Okay. Well, you said it was their decision. I'd imagine you had spoken. Is that correct?
Yes, I handed out all the documentation involving the case, and from then on, it was the DA's
Yeah, I know.
decision.
I was never taken to PD.
Why he charged them, and
No, we were taken to PD.
I can't really speak to his chain of thought.
Okay.
I remember now.
Okay. At this time, I would just like to make a note of the date of the claim that I filed for my clients, which was on the day of the original event in question, 326. I filed it immediately, and these warrants were issued well after the fact. So again, Detective McCormick, was this information requested by the DA's office in order to pursue these warrants?
No?
After the fact?
Information was delivered to the DA's office as usual.
Okay, it's a yes or no question. Was that information requested?
You mean specifically requested regarding this?
Yes. Regarding this incident by the prosecutor's office, was this information requested?
Yeah,
Among
thank you,
other
Niall.
cases, yes.
Okay. Do you recall the date that this information was requested?
I believe it was one day after the incident. Since after that incident happened, I went off duty.
Okay, thank you, Detective McCormick.
Miss West?
Yes. I just have one question. Was the trespassing warrant submitted within the statute of limitations?
Yes, ma'am.
No further questions.
All right, Mr. Braun, you have any questions?
No, Your Honor.
All right. Detective McCormick, you may step down at this time, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you have any more witnesses to call, Miss West?
No, I do not, Your Honor.
That's a cool looking
Alright.
character model right there.
This time, are both sides prepared
Behind
to
us.
give their closing, or do you need a few moments?
Yes, I would like to request a short recess, Your Honor.
All right. I will grant
I
a
agree to that.
10-minute recess at this time.
Excuse me, Your Honor.
Mr. Payne, this is the middle of
don't
a
mean to be
court
rude,
proceeding.
but
What can I do for you? Yes.
I need to go to the restroom. Can you call a recess?
I'll go ahead and call this court back into session at this time. Are both parties prepared to give their closing?
Thank you.
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, Mr. Braun, you may proceed with your closing, sir.
Thank you, Your Honor. Your Honor, ladies and gentlemen of the court, Maryland v. King holds that when officers make an arrest supported by probable cause to hold for a serious offense, taking and analyzing a cheek swab of the arrestee's DNA is like fingerprinting and photographing. Legitimate police booking procedure that is reasonable under the Fourth Amendment. Now, mind you, this is if the detainee is under arrest on a serious charge. Not detained and released, but under arrest. Now, what this case has shown to me is a lot of shady doings by the district's attorney's office, which borders on tampering. These warrants, which were issued to justify this DNA being taken a day after this court case was filed, raises a lot of suspicion. But setting that aside, it is simply unconstitutional. The search and seizure, which was done without my client's consent in swabbing their DNA when they were detained and released. It has not been very difficult to prove this. In fact, the opposing counsel has asked a lot of the questions that I intended to ask today and gotten the answers that I intended to get today. My clients were offered time served on these warrants to help the district attorney's office prepare for their case. I was offered a settlement of $10,000 to settle this case out of court because the district attorney's office knows that they do not have a case and that their clients simply screwed up. The DNA swab of my 3 clients, Mr. Ryan Kendall, Mr. Eugene Zuckerberg, and Ms. Celine Lacroix, was violation of their Fourth Amendment rights and entitles them to damages under 42 U.S. Code Section 1983. Furthermore, that DNA evidence needs to be removed from the record, as anything that DNA evidence touches will be tainted, as it is fruit of the poisonous tree and was taken unconstitutionally.
Yes, the poison
I've
tree.
proven that case here in court today,
I don't know what
and
that
I
means.
await the wisdom and judgment of Your Honor. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Braun. Miss West, your closing, please.
Yes. Your Honor and people of the gallery, I would first like to thank you for your time here today. As we can see, it's been laid out in black and white within their police's own SOP guidelines that what they did on March 26th at the Polito Bank was well within their legal right. There was no Fourth Amendment law violated, no California law violated, and honestly, kind of ridiculous.
I believe.
I had a statement prepared, but we already laid the facts here, so nothing further.
Thank you, Miss West.
Better than that Miss
All right,
America
this
pageant
time,
lady.
I will place this court in recess, where I will go back, and I will come back with a verdict. The court is now in recess. Mr. Payne, you may use the bathroom now. And even the,
God damn it.
The ruling of Proposition California's Penal Code with 295 and subsection 296.1 for California Proposition 69 with the collection of DNA in the state of California. This time, I'm going to fine for the plaintiffs in the full amount. It is the belief of this court that their Fourth Amendment rights were violated. They were not under arrest at the time for a felony, which in order to collect DNA must be a felony. Even with Proposition 69, which I will read something for you, Miss West. I don't know if you looked at subsection 295 or not. Any person, adult or juvenile, who is convicted of or pleads guilty or no contest to a felony offense, or is found not guilty by reason of insanity or any felony offense, the DNA collection can happen. Okay? So, going forward, we may have to review the DNA collection and how it's collected within the police department. I don't know their SOPs. I don't have their SOPs. But this has been argued all the way up to the Supreme Court level. And it is the belief of this court today that their Fourth Amendment rights were violated under the California Proposition 69, which had the penal code of 295. And also, Mr. Braun brought up case law with Maryland versus King. And that weights heavily in this factor. So at this time, I'm now going to go ahead and dismiss this court. Mr. Kindle, Mr. Zuckerberg, I will come up. You were both awarded the full amount of $25,000. Ms. Lacroix is not here. Mr. Braun, are you in communication with her at all?
I believe
I
it
am
is
quite a
Eugene
bit.
who is in.
This is my granddaughter. I can happily move the money to her if you like.
No, she'll have to get the money directly from one of us.
Okay, no problem.
All right. Go ahead and this court is now adjourned.